Hi everyone. Now let's continue to discuss on JUnit 5 assertions. So in this lecture we will discuss about assert array equals method. Assertions API provide a static assert array equals method. So this method helps us in validating that actual and expected arrays are equal. So here this static assert array equals method takes in an actual array and an expected array and it compares that whether they are equal or not. So here by arrays equality we mean that the elements of array are equal and the order of elements should match. And also number of elements should match. So friend, let's suppose we have two arrays and let's say both have few elements. So when we use both arrays in assert array equals method, what it does is it sees that each element of array are equal, the order of elements should match and the number of elements should match. So if one array has integer elements say 1, 2, 3, then other array should also have 3 elements by value 1, 2, 3 and order of these elements should match. If the elements have order 3, 2, 1, despite the values being equal, the order didn't match, therefore the arrays won't be equal. So this 3 property makes both array equal. So if the actual and expected arrays are equal, then our test case will pass. And if the actual and expected arrays are not equal, then our test case will fail. So friends, assert array equals has many overloaded methods. So we will discuss the important ones. So the first method is assert array equals, which takes in two array. One is the expected array and other is the actual array. And it does the comparison between these two arrays. And if they are equal, then the assertion passes or else it fails. The second overloaded method also takes two arrays. One is the actual and the other is expected. But it also takes a message. So this is our customized message. If the expected and actual arrays are not equal, then we know that our test case will fail. And if our test case fails, on JUnit console we get a customized string message which we have provided to this method. The third overloaded method also takes an expected array and an actual array. The third argument is a supplier functional interface which evaluates to a string and it acts as a message supplier. So if the expected and actual arrays are not equal, then we know that our test case will fail, and if the test case fails, the supplier function interface comes into picture and it lazily evaluates a string and passes it to JUnit console. So the only advantage of using this supplier function interface instead of string is that this supplier function interface evaluates to a string only when the test case fails. But the string is always evaluated whether test case fails or not. So friends, let's go to Eclipse and see the demonstration of assert array equals method. So friends, in our last lecture we discussed about assert not equals method. And in this lecture we will discuss about assert array equals method. So in our JUnit 5 project, in the SRC folder, in the book service class, I will be creating a method. Let's say I create a method whose return type is a string array. So public, and I give a name to it as get book IDs by publisher. And to this method we will provide a string which would be the publisher. So what this method will do, it will take a publisher, it will search the list of books, and whichever publisher matches a book, it will take its book ID, it will store it in an array, and finally it will return a string array. So here let's say we create a list of string. We'll give it a name as book IDs. Now we'll provide a for loop and we will iterate the list of books. And then we'll provide if condition, that if publisher dot equals book dot get publisher, then we'll simply add the book ID to the list. So friends, here what we have done is we are iterating the list of books one by one and we are comparing the publisher we passed to this method to each and every book, and if any of the publisher matches with the book, we are simply adding its book ID to the book IDs list. And after iterating over each and every list of books, at last we'll simply return the string array by converting this list of string to a string array. So in order to convert this list of string to string array, list has a method called as toArray, which actually takes a type of array. So here we'll provide a new string whose size will be so this will convert list of string to a string array. So friends, now let's go to our test folder and we will test get book IDs by publisher method, which returns a string array, and we'll demonstrate it by using assert array equals method. So here I will be creating one class as assert arrays equals demo. We'll keep it in a package assert arrays equals. We'll click finish. So friend, in this test class we will be demonstrating assert arrays equals method. So if we go to assert equals demo class, here we have seen assert equals method and its overloaded methods. So I will just reuse this test methods. I will copy it and in our assert array equals demo, I'll just paste it. So now let's see the demonstration of first assert array equals method. So I will give the test name as assert arrays equals with no message. So friends, here you can see that we have first created an instance of book service because we want to test the methods of book service. And then we have created two books whose ID is 1 and 2. So let's say we create one more book. We'll give a name to it as Head First JavaScript book. We'll give an ID to it as 3 and a title as Head First JavaScript, and we will give a publisher as Vrox. So friends, here you can see that there are 3 books and 2 of them have publisher as Vrox. We will also add the third book to the list of books. and then we'll call book service get book IDs by publisher method. We'll pass a string as Vrox. So friends, here we know that when we will call this method, we'll pass a publisher as Vrox, we'll get back a string array having two IDs 1 and 3, because this Vrox as a publisher matches to a book having ID as 1 and a book having ID as 3. So here we'll simply take it as actual book IDs, and after we get the actual book IDs, we will assert this actual array with our expected array. So we will import assert array equals method. So friends, here we expect that this string array should have two values 1 and 3. So our expectation is it should have 1 and 3, and we'll compare it with actual book IDs. So if I run this test case now, so here you can see the test case got passed, because whatever we expected that it should return 1 and 3, the actual book IDs did return 1 and 3. So in the first test we saw assert array equals with no message, and also friend we saw that how these two arrays are equal is because both the arrays have element 1 and 3. The number of elements are also equal, that is 1 and 3, and the order of these elements are also equal. So if I change the order, let's say 3 and 1, and if I run this test case now, you can see the test case got failed and it gave assertion failed error saying that array contains differ at index 0, expected 3 but was 1. So here we are expecting that this element should be 3, but it was actually 1. So friends, this was the first assert array equals overloaded method. Now let's see the second assert array equals overloaded method. So I will just copy this test case. So I'll give a name to it as assert array equals with message. So in the second test, the scenario is pretty much similar to the first test case. So the only difference in the second overloaded version is here it takes an expected and an actual array, and the third parameter is the string message, and this string message gets printed in our JUnit console whenever our test case will fail. So we'll simply say book IDs didn't match. So if I run this test case now, we know the test case will fail because the actual book IDs have an order of 1 and 3, and we are asserting it with an expectation of 3 and 1. So let's run this test case. So here you can see the test case got failed with an assertion failed error. And also here you can see that it printed our customized message saying that book IDs didn't match, and it printed default array contains differ at index 0, expectation was 3 but was 1. So this was the second overloaded method of assert array equals. Now let's see the demonstration of third assert array equals method. So here scenario remains as it is. Here we will simply change the test name as assert array equals with message supplier. So now the only change we do in our third test case is, instead of passing the string message directly, we will pass it through the supplier function interface. So the syntax is something like this. Let's say lambda expression which returns a string. So the only advantage of using this supplier function interface is this string gets evaluated only when the test case fails. So if I run the test case now, so here you can see the test case failed with an assertion failed error, and rest of the output is same as what we saw in our second test case. But this supplier function interface was evaluated when actually the test case got failed. So friends, we saw that how we can compare two arrays using assert array equals method. We saw that elements value should be equal, their order should be equal, and the number of elements also should be equal. So let's say if I give correct order, but I only increase one more element, let's say 5, and if I run the test case, you see we got a different assertion failed error saying that array lengths differ. The expectation is 3 but was 2. So here the length of array expectation is 3 but it returned 2. So friends, in this lecture we saw the demonstration of assert array equals method. The expected array in all three test cases to be 1, 3. And if I run all the test cases, you can see all the three test cases got passed, because what we expected that it should return 1, 3. The actual book IDs had book ID 1 and 3 because the publisher which we passed matched only the book ID 1 and book ID 3. So friend, this was all about assert array equals method. I hope you liked this video. Thanks, have a nice day.